Okay, welcome to part 3. We're going to kind of carry on from where we left off on part 2 when we saw the injector pulse get incredibly wide, and we would in that case think about fuel, and we can think about the high priority inputs that would affect an injector pulse width. The first thing is we look at your schematic. You want to print that off if you haven't already. I have made some changes to our test leads. If you look at the ignition switch, we have flipped the yellow lead and the purple lead to both cam sensors. We are looking at cam sensor A and B, the intake and the exhaust cam. The orange channel, what I want to do in a history like this, I want to think about the map sensor, because the map sensor is super high priority as far as fueling on a speed density Honda. I have a micro probe clamped to the, there's the micro probe right there. You can't really see the lead. I'm unobtrusively want to look at the 5-volt reference to the map sensor. That may tell me something about what has gone on here. I also, on the gray lead, I have attenuated the channel, and I am on fuel injector number 4 right there. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to roll the scope. We'll start the car. We'll take a look at a normal pattern, and then we'll look at stalling and then triggering. Basically, that's our scope. Okay, I will start the car. We're triggered, when I talked about trigger last time, we are triggered on the crank sensor on channel H burgundy. The little yellow diamond, once the voltage meets that threshold, looks like on the upward slope, it will draw a pattern. So here we go, I'm gonna start the car. Okay, we're rolling across the screen, and we can see a pattern. I will stop the screen, we'll talk about what we're looking at, just to get an idea. And then I'll stop the car. Basically, some channels have remained the same since the first 2 videos. Blue and red, the current ramping of the injectors and current ramping of the ignition coils is the same, as you can see, and I'm upside down on red. That's my bad. I will correct that. Okay. Okay. All right. Next time you'll see it right side up. Nonetheless, it's the same. It's just pointing downward. Green is our fuel pump. Yellow is that looks to me like that is the intake cam sensor. And cam sensors are real important when it comes to fuel injection. That's a high priority input as far as the pulse width of the injectors. So bear that in mind. I want to get all over the signals. I got away from the ignition switch because the ignition switch didn't seem to be having anything to do with our previous stalls. We will probably going to go back there eventually later in more situations. The final channel, as you can see, is the crank sensor. That's where we're triggered. That is the, I think it's about an 18X sort of with an encoded notch, a skinny notch on the crank sensor close to the harmonic balancer on this Honda 2.4. The orange channel is something a little different. That is, as I said, that is going to be our current flowing to our map sensor from the PCM. It's a very small amount of current. We're gonna convert, and this particular micro clamp, we're gonna convert millivolts to milliamps. So we're gonna see what happens in the same situation as the end of video 2, part 2, as to what might be going on with this this overfueling condition and what basically might have caused it. So sometimes, you know, as we narrow in on the problem, as we look at our signals, we'll move our leads around to kind of key in on more specifics. We don't want to leave a lead on something we know is not a problem, if we can prove that to be not the problem. Anyway, I will start the car. I'll start the scope, start the car, and we'll take a look.
And he's like, so I'll tell you what he said.
Okay, scope's running, car's running. We're going across the screen, triggered on the crank. The orange channel is the current, the microamps going into the map sensor from the PCM. Believe it or not, there is a small amount. I want to kind of see how much that is. I will measure that. I'm getting about 10.32 millivolts, and I would say that is 10 point. The attenuation is 1-to-1 on this clamp, the AEMC K100. So we would say that the map sensor is drawing about 10 milliamps. So let's get the scope rolling. I just want to show you channel gray. Channel gray is a basic fuel injector pulse, because we know that that's the voltage pulse. We've seen that in other videos. That is our our pulse width. That's our flyback voltage. I'll kind of get a better picture of that so you can recognize it. That is this guy here. I want to see if that does anything weird. I'm only on one of the injectors. It has 4 of them, but nonetheless, I figured that'd be valuable as far as gaining information. So we are hooked on that. The scope is running, and we're going to see what's going to transpire. Let's. We are 200 milliseconds per division. Our sample rate is about 1 meg. I'll go to 1 meg, a little better sampling. And let's kind of see what happens here. Oh, engine's running rough, smooth out. Let's just kind of look at that, you know, while we got the scope running, something we could notice, you know. Something happened there, and it felt like it ran a little, like it started to lope, like it started to lose a cylinder. Let's kind of determine, maybe we can see something on the scope and see what happens while we look. Okay, we got something going. Look at our injector pattern. Okay, we're missing or skipping a beat. Looks like we lost an injector. We're triggered. Gray is 4, firing order being 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3. The third injector got unplugged, so just kind of bear that in mind, you know, as you look at things as we determine. But anyway, just see that little glitch there. If it ever happened to you, you had the scope rolling, you know, always take advantage of what you got when the scope is rolling. Okay, let's get back to our situation. We're running, and we're going across the scope, and let's look what happens. Looks like we stopped. Let's stop the car and stop the scope. Again, trigger, the threshold was not met. The scope stopped the capture as it's supposed to, and we have a situation we're going to analyze. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Okay. Look at the orange. That was the current flowing to the map sensor. Okay. Look at, again, the excessive pulse width. Look at the double hitch on gray. Okay. That's a little weird. The wide pulse width. Let's measure that. Oh, that's a trigger. Now we want to measure the pulse width. The car idling shouldn't have more than 3.5 milliseconds. And right there, it's about, okay, well, that's the idle millisecond. Maybe that was more of a normal one. Let's get back to where it starts to look weird. We go in. Okay. Let's look at our current going to the map sensor. Remember, we had 10 millivolts. Now we're down. We pretty much have 0. Okay, we're not. 10 millivolts would be right about there. You see I'm rolling the orange cursor up? So the map sensor definitely broke. I disconnected the map sensor, so no current got to flow to the map sensor. And it sort of wigged out the, as I said earlier in video 2, we have excessive pulse width on our injectors. So basically we're looking about, okay, that's 13.73 milliseconds at idle is way too much. Anyway, this is what can happen when you know, a sensor glitches, and we can prove the cam sensor good. Let's go back. That's why I want to take a look at those, because I hooked them up for a reason. Let's look at our cam sensors before everything went south, and because they could have a profound effect on injector pulse. But in this case, okay, our cam sensors, I would deem them good. I wouldn't deem them the problem. They look pretty crisp and clean. Right before everything went south, right before the break off of current, the map sensor got disconnected right here where the orange went low. Our cam sensors are strong. So just something to bear in mind. Cam sensor signals are real important when it comes to anything, correlation, and in particular fuel injection pulse. So anyway, this was our third video, and it was basically a situation where a sensor became disconnected. And in the real world, if that sensor was hitchy or had some a terminal fitment issue, and they say the map sensor, the 3-prong sensor, broke loose for just a second and stalled the car, with that micro clamp on the map sensor, we would definitely be headed in a good diagnostic direction to know that's what happened anyway, because the current stopped flowing to the map sensor. All right, thanks for watching. and I'll come back with a part 4. Take care.